Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. Quick info before we start, as the title might be a little bit confusing. The main post was written by OP and the update was written by OP's girlfriend. So let's get started. This post is from the subreddit Am I the A-hole and it's by user Deleted. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she is too much of a wild card to marry? My 27 male girlfriend, Maddie, 27 female, is a bit of a free spirit. Don't get me wrong, she is very intelligent, attractive, and has a lot going for her. We've been together for 3 years, but the issue I've been having recently is that she wants marriage and I see her as such an untamable horse, so to speak. She is a rebellious, free-spirited adventurer who literally packs up and leaves to go on a trip at the drop of a hat. She tells me she's going and won't go if there are already commitments, but if she can, she is gone. She is financially secure, but she also spends a lot. Apart from an emergency fund, all her money goes to travel and taking on a multitude of projects. She woke up one day and decided to enroll in an auto repair course. She is currently getting GIA certified for gemology. She makes jewelry. She works remotely, so she literally will pack up and take her work with her when she finds events she wants to go to, etc. She lived abroad, had a house in the south of France, speaks 3 languages, goes to Germany and Austria often, and picks up hobbies or skills like they are M&Ms. There isn't anything wrong with it, I guess, but it just feels chaotic. Her biggest flaw is that she is rebellious. She absolutely hates and loathes the traditional route for anything. I went to college and she didn't. She had problems with teachers, found it, one abused her. But it's widespread. She quits her jobs because she manages better, and she does. She has her own business and a host of side hustles. But it is just, how long does it last? She asked me if I was ever going to propose, and I said I wasn't sure. We argued back and forth a little, and she asked why I wouldn't. I was honest and said I saw her as a wild card, that she just takes off a lot. She said she was lucky and could do that her friend who died unexpectedly in his 30s, and she absolutely is not going to go out working a boring 9 to 5 with no life and no experience under her belt. She left and hasn't spoken to me since. It's been 5 days. She said she needed to think. Am I the a-hole? Am I overreacting? Well, OP, I gotta say, you kind of sound like the a-hole just by saying she's an untamed horse. That's weird. Now, taking out those comments that you don't like her being so rebellious or that she's a horse that needs to be tamed or some weird stuff like that, I would simply say you guys are incompatible and that's it. You guys have different interests and different lifestyles and it doesn't sound like you guys blend together. Personally, I think your girlfriend sounds really interesting. She's financially stable and she has a safety fund. And then she spends the money that she makes in the things that she likes, and she likes to travel and to learn new things. And it doesn't sound like you do, so this is incompatibility. Now, I've got no idea how the conversation went between you two, but I know that the result is that she left and hasn't come back or called you in 5 days. So I don't know if you overreacted or not. I kind of get the impression you might have. Still, you need to talk to her and maybe this is it for you guys. And what do you guys think? What is your judgment? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Wailing Wonder says, either you're side by side with her in all of her crazy antics or you're going to be miserable. If that's not the way you want to live your life, then end it so you can both move on. Also, I think she might have already broken up with you, so... And Y Vines says, I feel like I married a similar woman. She's much more spontaneous than I am. We're both fairly high earners. I've managed our finances. She's gotten me to do things I never expected to. It's been an amazing 15 years, but it's because we make a good partnership. We balance each other out. And Vogon Shakespeare says, you're the a-hole dude. This is so classically, Mr. Buttoned-Up Suit Guy goes for manic pixie dream girl and then demands she tone down the exact thing that attracted him to her in the first place once he has her. Your ex sounds like, girlfriend sounds like an absolute blast. Don't go for a bad bitch if you don't actually want a bad bitch lifestyle. She is like the female Jack Sparrow. She is always calculating, recalculating, and then going off for these big adventures. She even encourages me to come, but I am a very boring, routine 9-to-5 person. She is the opposite of that. Initially, it was so attractive because she is this wild girl who works on classic cars, collects old fancy dinnerware, and just meets everything head on. She doesn't stick to things for too long. She worked for employed jobs for almost exactly a year each. She decided to go to school for auto repair, but also bought courses for GIA. She then got a library membership and started reading heavily about business management. When I start thinking about it long term though, I just can't shake the feeling that it would get hard. I would want kids in school to be responsible, and she would be pulling them out to go to Disneyland. I mean, she's openly said she wants to have fun with them and to take them to experience things like her mom did with her. I've said I want them to be in school and to have a normal childhood. She agrees that school is important, but she says they can also miss a week occasionally to travel. Her phrases are, living is more important. They are only going to be young for a short period, and I want to enjoy them while they enjoy me. Both of us view marriage as a partnership and one that is equal. We both would be doing it more for the security it provides and having children and some of the financial stuff. She's been a bigger advocate of a prenup than I have. She will potentially inherit a lot and wants to be sure that's protected and that basically I have my finances and she has hers. She believes in working together, but essentially if anything goes wrong, both of us leave with what we've worked for and have. I do want to get married. What stops me is how she flips from one thing to another, which makes me nervous. She is a wonderful girlfriend, but for example, she blew $1,500 on a last-minute trip to Florida for an event at Universal. Like, she literally found the event and within 48 hours was packed up and driving to Florida. She has a mile-long list of future plans and is very future-focused, but then she is also just like winging it. I have apologized for the wild card comment, but she won't respond and is taking time to think. I do love her. I want it to work out. I just worry that I am like Mr. Homebody Boring and she is the goddess of chaos. I mean, who can live up to someone who goes on VIP tours of SeaWorld, jets off to Germany 1 or 2 times a year, and then is fixing old hot rods, 74 Plymouth Barracuda? Not to mention all the other stuff she does. She can walk into an antique store and name china patterns off the top of her head and identify jewels at the drop of a hat. She's too awesome and it's killing me. If I marry her and have kids with her, I'm going to be the dry toast to her buffet, which is everything wonderful. She doesn't really believe in retirement funds. She saved 6 months worth of bills as an emergency fund and saved some back. But most of it is free game. She says she isn't taking it with her, and apart from leaving kids with a little something, she's not leaving a bunch to end up in an estate sale or have it fought over. She has a plan when she quits, but not always another job lined up. She's usually in that process when she pulls the plug. Opie's edit update. Just to clarify, since I'm seeing a lot of comments and accusations of her flying around. She isn't a bad person, she just likes to be on the move. She's been mentioning marriage or wanting to discuss it from the beginning, or at least 6 to 9 months into our relationship. The expectation was always, we have discussed it. When I asked her if she would slow down or settle, she always said she just couldn't imagine not traveling at all. She said she's happy to do school runs and live in an area for a long time, but she still has a lot of stuff on her bucket list, like going to Japan and other things. I've always countered with, what about kids? She says she wants to give them those experiences and keep them cultured and open-minded, but obviously it depends on them. She functions under different kids need different things. She was abused and her friend died very tragically, which I won't go into detail about. She has anxiety and CPTSD that is managed, and honestly, you'd never know she has those things. I only know because she gave me the disclaimer. She doesn't have ADHD, so please stop trying to diagnose her with bipolar or ADHD and leave that to her professionals. I do want to marry her, but it just freaks me out that she is hyper-independent. She always invites me along and I sometimes go. I've told her I don't want her traveling while pregnant or anything, and she's always been understanding of my point of view. I think I messed up telling her she was a wild card and would be a bad mother or wife by extension. And no, she did not ghost me. She asked for a specific amount of time and has been sending 1 or 2 texts just checking in. But she wanted a week to decide how she was feeling, so I'm giving her the week. She also hasn't had a lot of partners, as some people suggested. She's been with 2 people. She doesn't drink, smoke, or do drugs at all. Hopefully, we can salvage this. OP's update 2. It is hitting how dumb I've been. I didn't really talk about it with her, so I am positive for her it feels like this critique that she needs to be less spontaneous or on the go feels out of the blue. She hasn't responded to my last message, but she may be busy. Basically, I said I wanted to talk and actually deeply put a plan together, that I love her and want things to work. The silence is killing me, but I deserve it for being a jackass. I feel like she is 90% out the door, but I don't want to end things with her. She will have to make that decision. She's been asking me when we might get married, and maybe if I had given her a solid answer, she would have been secure enough to slow down. Okay, so from all of that, we get that initially the community was telling OP that maybe they were incompatible. Some people were calling him an a-hole because of what he said about her. And then he just gives us a lot of context and some updates in which we see what he thinks about her, what he thinks about their relationship, and how he starts to understand that he was in the wrong. Now, apart from that last update, he didn't respond to anything else. However, the girlfriend did see his post, and she has a post of her own. So let's finish the story with that. This post is also from the subreddit Am I the A-hole, and it's by user OKConsequence5297. Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend she is too much of a wild card to marry? Update Girlfriend Edition. I, 27 female, am the girlfriend of the previous OP who posted here yesterday and apparently thought I wouldn't see their post. Lol. This is my throwaway account, but I just wanted to clarify some things that my now ex said about me. He apparently thinks I am a horse, again, lol, that needs to be tamed. And to that, I say I'd rather die in a trailer with a black mamba Kill Bill style. Suck on my balls since you don't have any, James. Since you decided to air out all your frustrations about our relationship online and never mention any of this to me before this point, when you suddenly decided 3 years into a relationship I was a wild card, here is my version. I am not the flighty, careless wild card you made me out to be. I usually plan most of the trips I take months in advance. The one trip I took to Orlando at the last minute was simply because I finally heard from my cousin that she couldn't come about a week before we were trying to go. So I booked everything at the last minute and went. It was one time, not a pattern. I do not own property in France anymore. That was my ex-stepfather's property. I did live abroad, but I do now reside in the lower 48. I have never once expressed traveling while pregnant. Huh? I have been a big advocate of just settling down and getting married, but I wouldn't do it without a prenup. Something I feel this is more what this whole hissy fit is about. I also wouldn't allow you to get me pregnant without marrying me first, but you left that part out. This was another sticking point in our relationship. How many times have you said, we can just do it now, while we were intimate and I wouldn't let you? You wanted me to get pregnant now, not later when we were married, and that was the biggest sticking point. I wouldn't do it unless things were secure and you were committed. You didn't like that, so it became picking about everything. The way I dress, the food I eat, the car I drive, my hobbies, the way I speak, what I speak. Things haven't been good, and that's the only reason I can think you would make that post looking for validation for crappy reasoning. You have painted a picture that I am essentially a drifter, when instead I hold down a regular job, own my business, and have stuck with most companies I worked for over 2 years. If you cared to listen, which you usually don't. I do have lots of hobbies, but I have a genuine interest in a lot of different things. I don't just run off. and how you and some of the guys responded and talked about me in that post is frankly appalling. A lot of people were accusing me of being ADHD, and I assure you I am not. I don't bounce from topic to topic or task to task in the way you were describing. This is definitely not an accurate viewpoint. You also discussed my CPTSD and anxiety, something I don't tell anyone about publicly. All things considered, let me make this clear. We are over. You wanted to air this out in public? Then I will finish it in public, you narrow-minded dunce. You single-handedly talked yourself out of a relationship. I wish this were fake. I wish my life or what I had known of it wasn't blowing up right now. I asked for time, went to the beach, and the next thing I knew, I saw a story that you painted online about me. And it's not entirely accurate. I wanted to solve everything, but you can't solve somebody not loving you for you. You also can't force somebody to love you when they don't. I had to come to terms with a 3-year relationship ending. It takes two to ruin a relationship, and I say this as the other party. I am not perfect, but I am also direct and pretty level-headed. If you wanted to break up with me, you should have just broken it off with me instead of narrating a weird, "I don't want to be with my girlfriend anymore, so I'm trying to find a flaw" post. But hey, I might just be the a-hole. I dated you for 3 years. Extended from OP's comments. He was insecure and things had been rocky because he was very upset that I took trips without him. But when I offered for him to go with me, even paying for the room, he just needed to get his ticket and spending money, he would refuse and want me to stay home. I did this sometimes, but he knows travel is important to me. He explained that he doesn't like basically everything about me, which is blindsiding, so I asked for space to process. I told him exactly where I was going, who I was with, and when I would be home, and even stayed in contact. He then did an about turn, but not before I found this post, in which he refers to me as this thing that needs to be tamed, to be broken. I've given 3 years to this prick who not only writes this crap online, but airs out the amount of money I have, my mental health, and other personal details about me to the world, instead of discussing it directly with me as a partner should. He suddenly is telling me the reason he has been dragging out getting engaged for 2 years, which is important to note. He knew I wouldn't stay past 3 with no commitment, or giving me any sort of real commitment besides just knocking me up when he is horny, is that I am a wild card. Well, OP2, I guess all that there's left to say is good riddance to James. So here's wishing you the best in the future. Take care and thank you for sharing your version of the events. Now, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user PPJunior16. Okay then, block my driveway. I live next to a school and I've had parents back up into my driveway to wait for their children. If I'm not going anywhere, I don't mind. No harm, no foul. One day, I came home to find a woman in my driveway. I got out of my car and asked her to please pull out for a second so I could pull in, and then she could go back up where she was. She said, "I will only be a few minutes." I said, "Ma'am, I live here and I'd like to get into my garage." Because it's a narrow street and the parents are now parked on both sides, the street access is now narrower and only one car can get by at a time. I told her that I couldn't wait here for a few minutes because I'm blocking traffic. "Well, I'll be moving in a bit." I said, "Okay, no you won't be." I then parked perpendicular to her vehicle, blocking my own driveway and her vehicle. As I walked by, I told her I really have to use the bathroom and have stomach cramps. "You are welcome to call the police if you like. I'll be out in a bit." The look on her face after she realized what was happening was priceless. A few minutes later, I could hear her honking. A few more minutes later, I could hear honking and my doorbell ringing. Only because I saw it was a child ringing on my Ring doorbell, I answered, "I'll be out in a minute, I'm washing my hands." I could hear the little boy screaming to his mother, I assume, "He says he's washing his hands." By the time I came out a few more minutes later, all the vehicles and students were gone. I very slowly walked past her car, avoiding eye contact, and got into my car. I adjusted the mirror, moved the car seat forward and then back slowly. I started the car and moved my car forward slowly. All I heard was the tires screeching and the car horn honking as she left. Her windows were rolled up, so I can only assume the little boy got an earful of nice words as she was leaving. My neighbors were wondering what was going on with all the honking. When I explained, they said, "Oh yeah, that's what we kind of figured." Nicely done, OP. Hope she learned her lesson and not parked in your driveway anymore. Thanks for sharing. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.